friends, London Blue here. This is going to be the start of a weekly series where I discuss all things Chelsea. This is the first one. Got a lot to get through, from Blueco fixing last year's mistakes to the heavy links in investment and ex-Man City players, and whether we have finally reached the end of that, I guess. The risk of the Garnacho loan to Villa, going back to Harvey Elliott last year. Definitely some worries there. Other outgoings, other incomings, the new set-piece coach, and the Barco situation. So yeah, let's get into it. So let's start off with Morgan Rogers. For me, player I've wanted for a while now. I think last season we should have signed him. We probably would have got him for 80 million. Instead, we signed Gittins and Garnacho. One's already out the door. The other, interesting to see how the season goes for him. But yeah, seems like we're finally fixing the mistakes of previous seasons gone by. There was a bit of worry from my end that we'd missed the boat massively. We had Champions League football. We had just won the Club World Cup. There was a bit of a buzz around the team. I think last season we really should have signed the kind of players we're being linked with now. I mean, fresh reports were being linked with Henderson. He was available last year. Bringing him in last year, would it have made a massive difference? We're never going to know, but there were definitely times where we lacked an experienced head, but also we definitely lacked a centre mids. I think Caicedo ended up just exhausted from the busy summer, the busy season before, and the season. His season kind of peaked against Arsenal after that red card. He was a shadow of the player. James ended up playing centre mid quite a lot, but when it really came to the crunch, at the end of the season, the business, he was nowhere to be seen with his obvious injury issue. So yeah, Henderson could have made a big difference on the pitch, but definitely behind the scenes. I think you saw he was brought up to the World Cup because of that. So yeah, unfortunately, it isn't a season where we have a lot to balance, a lot to go for, but it's still a positive signing. I think we need these experienced players to show the lads how it should be done, how you should approach matches, how you should approach defeats, how you approach wins, not to get too carried away, keep them grounded. Unfortunately, it looks like we've lost out on John Stones. I think that would have been a fantastic signing. I think that would have been a great bit of business because he actually still has a lot to offer. One game a week, I don't think we would need to push him too hard. I think we could have managed him. So yeah, Welbeck's a great one. I think Welbeck actually improves the squads. I don't think he's just coming in for his age. He should have went to the World Cup, let's be honest. I think the last two seasons have been his best, so he's clearly getting better with age. Probably does mean the end of Delap. Personally, I would loan Delap. I still think, even though I watched him last year and I was pulling my hair out, he's so frustrating and he hasn't shown any reason for me to even warrant an opportunity. But that being said, there's something about letting a 23-year-old English striker just go that doesn't sit well with me. I think a loan would be great. However, I do appreciate we do need some money coming in. Speaking of money coming in, players are undoubtedly going to leave. I think there's definitely going to be a player who leaves who we're not too excited about as fans. The one who springs to mind for me is definitely Hatto. There's links of Hatto going. I think bringing in Lacroix, Colwill. They're obviously looking at another centre-back, hence the Stones links. I think Fofana will stay just because I don't think anyone's going to buy him. I don't see Hatto as a left wing-back. The fact we're linked with the Chavera, is it, from Real Sociedad? Or no, completely wrong, Real Vallecano. It's gone a bit quiet with him, but obviously Cucurella going. I don't think Cucurella was ever going to be a wing back either. I would say someone like Quenda, even Pedro Neto, Barco, who's meant to be coming in, might be better suited to that sort of left wing back role, although I don't see Barco as a rampaging wing back, whereas Neto and Quenda definitely could do it. I think Gittins could do it, actually, from the little football I've seen of him. He might be able to fill in as a sort of rampaging wing back. But yeah, I'm worried about Hatto. He could be one who could go, which I generally think there's a player there. I think he was our best player the second half of last season. But we've got to get money in, and I think there would be clubs after him. I think Bayern Munich, Barcelona, even Arsenal. Can't sell him to Arsenal, I'm sorry, just no way. But yeah, I think Enzo's going to go. Doesn't bother me that. he doesn't want to be at Chelsea. He definitely thinks he's bigger than the club. Um, hasn't been helping himself on a PR front, but it does beg to question who's actually going to go for him. Man City, maybe. Rumours of Arsenal, if they don't get that Guimaraes deal done. I know they're linked with Alex Scott, as are we, but maybe Enzo becomes that. But then he wants to live in Madrid, he says. So, yeah, be interested to see what happens with him. Anyone who doesn't want to be at the club and keeps speaking out like they do, I don't want him wearing a shirt. And I think Chelsea need to have that, if you're not with us, see you later. I mean, they were pretty quick to get rid of Cucurella after he sort of expressed his desires to leave. So, yeah, be interesting to see what happens there. But I think Enzo's got to be the one who's probably gone. Obviously, Cucurella's gone. Santos we got money for, so there's still a lot of dealings to do. But I am worried there's going to be a player that we're not overly keen on. One that I wouldn't even be too bothered about going, but wouldn't want to sell him to a rival. There's a lot of Pedro Neto talk at the moment. Man City, Liverpool. I think he's been super disappointing, Neto. He's sort of a bit of a one-trick pony. Never really has consistency. Hasn't really set the world alight. And weirdly, my bigger concern when we signed him was availability, but he's actually available quite a lot. And even with that availability, he isn't really producing enough. So that could be one where we get money and I wouldn't be too disappointed. But there's always that little bit of concern selling him to a rival. But let's see how that goes. Obviously, as well, I think Chalobah will be gone, which is a shame. I like Chalobah and he's a good squad player, but he's never going to be an A-sided defender. He's always that sort of guy who's going to be playing when someone's injured or not available, or he's not a top centre back, but he's good and he's done great for us. And the way he was treated and the way he came back so professional, it'd be sad to see him go, but it's not a massive loss in my opinion. Obviously Garnacho's gone. I have to be a little bit worried about that one because Harvey Elliott left Liverpool last year under sort of similar terms. I know they're saying it's very easy for this deal to get done, but Villa, if they haven't got the money, they're not going to play him. So if he has to get to 20 appearances, let's just say, he'll get to 19. If they're looking at their finances and struggling, they just won't play him, and that's proven. So I know that everyone's saying he's gone, but he might not be. So that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that, actually. I think Man United thought Rashford and Sancho would end up at Villa. They didn't buy either of them. Harvey Elliott, Liverpool. So, yeah, excited. Garnacho's gone. Happy he's gone. I was kind of blue-tinted glasses thinking maybe there's a player there. I thought it was a bit of shrewd business last year, even though I think a lot of people said no, including Man United fans, and we should have listened to them because he just got worse and worse. And it's not even a confidence thing. I mean, he just... Yeah, let's not get too into it. Interestingly, regarding Aston Villa, I do think Jackson must have been a topic of conversation. It's quite apparent that he's on the market. He has a relationship with Emery, but from what I understand is the transfer, if the transfer is done within 45 days of the Rodgers deal, it means it's counted as a player trade, so not incoming money, which is a bit bizarre if money's exchanged. But anyway, not my forte. So I do wonder if Chelsea would rather sell him elsewhere if an offer comes in. I think 45 days after the Rodgers deal, the window's closed, so I don't see that happening. Maybe a loan with an obligation again. That obligation that has to be done in January or done next summer. But I'm not sure. I think January would be more realistic in terms of the financial year, so that's obviously one to keep an eye on. I'm not sure he's an Alonso player, but also discipline-wise, he was the worst of the worst. And yeah, we can't be dealing with that again. We've had a season of absolute nonsense, and he wasn't even there. Imagine he was there. So yeah, I think that's gone. I think the fact we're getting linked with Welbeck, and obviously Omega's injured. I think João Pedro's the main man. We've got no European football. I think Welbeck is that filler. I think Jackson's days are numbered. Again with Villa, Austin McPhee, negotiating for him, which is music to my ears because I do think Bernardo Cueva, has been nicking a living for a long time. I'm so fed up of seeing them whips to the front post. We've got a team of, I'd say the average must be under 6 foot, and our set pieces are woeful, but there's no variation. I don't try anything. It's painful. There was a stage we were getting a lot of success, but teams clocked on, and we just kept doing the same thing. Whip it front post, whip it front post. It was painful, and weirdly, I remember Austin McPhee with his long locks because I remember Villa last year had some real interesting set pieces and variation. I think they were the joint top scorers in Europe with Arsenal, and it's quite apparent we are going down a different route with our signings. I think Lacroix, he's 6'5", I believe. I think Palestri's 6 foot. Rogers, I mean, I remember watching Rogers live and thinking, what a tank. And, as the old adage goes, he's got a decent feet for a big man, but he's a unit. I wouldn't imagine him getting on the end of much, but he's a unit. He takes a player out. So we're clearly going for a bit more of a threat. Welbeck's not a small guy, so we're clearly upgrading, and with that, we definitely need to upgrade our set pieces because of all these near post nonsense. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Weirdly, this is the world of football now, getting excited about set piece coaches, but you have to move with the times, unfortunately. And I just touched on it there. Obviously, Maxime Lacroix doesn't get the juices flowing, does it? Is not someone you get super excited about, but you're happy with it. It's a steady signing. That being said, our reputation of signing French centre backs recently is definitely cause for concern. Although we've been going to the bottom of the par. I think Disasi never made any sense. I mean, he's not a footballer in terms of playing out from the back, so it's such a weird signing. Right attitude and energy and stuff, and he's done no wrong for us, but he's just not that ball playing centre back that clearly we need. Badiashile was weird. I mean, we had songs for Badiashile after a few months. He started off so good. He looked solid, and I do think injuries have hampered him a bit. And he's never going to find his place in this team this year. I think he'll play League Cup, and I don't think it's going to be enough for him because he went from being so good to so bad, and he just flip-flops in between. So yeah, and then for Fana, yeah, I was super excited when we signed for Fana. Thought it was a player there. Obviously, injuries haven't helped, but what frustrates me more is his off-the-field antics. Driving when he's got a driving ban. I think he drove down a one-way street on the opposite side of the road while he had a driving ban, whilst he was injured, I think. All this kind of stuff. And there's been rumours of attitude and stuff like that. And for someone who's played so little football, I think should be focusing on getting his career back on track. When he's played, he's been terrible, awful. He's just, he's gone backwards as a footballer, and it's such a shame because his ceiling was so high. Maybe just because I don't think anyone's going to come in for him, to be honest. I think he probably gets a chance under Alonso and he needs to take it. James as the right of a back three. Everyone keeps talking about James potentially as a right of a back three, but his injury record speaks for itself. He's not going to be the long-term fix there. Ideally, I'd like to see Achapong have a go, but no one seems to trust Achapong. Obviously, Maresca said he loved him but didn't play him that much. Rosinha treated him terribly, bringing him on for a minute here and there at the end. I thought that was awful. And then even McFarlane didn't even give him a go, which surprised me. A man from the club, from the academy. So there has to be some question marks there. Have we seen enough of Josh at men's level to think he's good enough? No. I mean, obviously there's a player there, but maybe he needs a season. Maybe a loan would be good for him, and then you kind of do keep Fofana as that competition of the right of a back three. So yeah, that's one to keep an eye on, I think. But Lacroix, definitely an upgrade. I think he's used to that system of playing in the back three if we need to. I think he played in the back four at Wolfsburg next to Van der Ven. He is a unit. Everyone keeps talking about the England game, but I don't think you can read into that game. Everyone was on holiday. I think his head was in Saint-Tropez, not in America, in Miami or wherever it was. So yeah, I think it's a good signing. I think he's solid enough. I think he'd be better in a better team. And he looks powerful actually when he plays. He's a lump. He's physical. He reads the game well. He's fast actually for a big centre back. He is fast. So yeah, I think he can play football as well. It's like I said, it's not a signing that you get super excited about, but it's a signing where you go, yeah, it makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So yeah, can't complain there. The one concern I do have with Lacroix and same with Rogers is they were very late in. They got very late into the World Cup, didn't they? They semis. Basically made it to the final with the third place playoff. That worries me. Obviously, pre-season, it's never too good. Alonso interestingly said in his press conference yesterday that he's confident all players will be ready for the start of the season. I don't see it myself. It's a few weeks away, well, less than a month away now, and surely they've just gone on holiday. I mean, Lacroix hasn't even signed yet, but there's all that kind of stuff to do. Um, yeah, I never like these players coming in late, but I guess the top players, most of them are at the World Cup. Even Henderson with his broken wrist. But yeah, that's my one concern actually. Rogers is going to come in late, Lacroix is going to come in late. There's no real time on the ground, as they say, on the training ground. So that's going to be interesting. It could be very likely that we start the season with a familiar 11 with not many new players. I think Palestri is probably going to start. But I'd be very surprised if Lacroix and Rogers and Henderson and whoever else are ready. Another incoming player is meant to be Valentin Barco. Not sure how to feel about him, but one thing I will say is I think there's going to be some PR work to be done from Chelsea's perspective, because I'm sorry, but if you're Chalobah, if you're Rogers, if you're James, who were playing for England, the way he acted running on the pitch in her phases and stuff, a bloke who didn't even play 1 minute in the World Cup, I don't think. Yeah, I'm not having it. If you're winners and you have that winning mentality, you're going to remember that. I'm sorry. So there's some PR work and some handshaking and apologies to be done there. Not sure how they do it. It's not like you're bringing Messi in, or bringing in some kind of superstar. You're bringing in some lad who's hardly played, who was at Strasbourg, who really gave it the big one. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we've lost Cucurella, who's an absolute shithouse. And we need some more players like that. And if he's a bit like that, I actually don't mind it. I kind of like it. We do need more players like that. I mean, if that was against Tottenham or Arsenal for us, I'd be loving it. I'd be like, yes, get in there. So yeah, do put in performances for us, I can forgive it, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. So I mentioned about Blueco fixing the mistakes of last year. There's areas that I still think we need to improve. I think we need to stop going for every ex-Man City player and widen our scouting network. That being said, I think we finally signed one of the better ones. I still think we need a centre mid. Alex Scott, I like the idea of that. I would love us to go and hijack Bruno Guimaraes, but don't see that happening. But yeah, Alex Scott I would take. I like Adam Wharton. I would definitely take him. Obviously, I know there's a lot of question marks around the keeper as well. I don't think you can loan Penders again. I think with what happened with Cortaz, he got settled in Madrid, he met his missus, I think he had kids there maybe, it became home. It's becoming a bit of a risk that Penders does make home in France. And let's be honest, PSG are going to be on the lookout for a keeper soon. He might say, no, I want to stay in France. And if he keeps impressing like he does, all hypotheticals here, but I think you have to keep him around. But the issue is he's coming in so late again because of the World Cup. He's not there now. Sharman Lowe's starting in goal today for the first friendly. That's an opportunity missed, in my opinion. I know he needs a holiday, but he didn't play for Belgium. Do you maybe just get back and try and impress? Because that position's up for grabs. I think Sanchez done okay last year, but he's always going to let you down when it matters. I think the semi against Arsenal, he was terrible, kind of lost us that game. Jorgensen, don't even get me started. Get out of the club. I don't think you go and sign a Diogo Costa for 40, 50, 60 million, whatever it is, when you've got a young keeper like Penders. If they do, you might as well say goodbye, Penders. So yeah, I think you keep Sanchez. I think Sanchez, if we under Maresca and Rosinha, we played way too much through Sanchez. I hope Alonso's wise enough not to do that. Playing short isn't his game. He just puts under so much pressure, but the team weren't brave enough. I mean, a number of times Gusto would just take the easy option and go back to Sanchez. Used to drive me mad, and they all done it, and it put him under a lot of pressure, and he's not good enough to deal with that pressure, let's be honest. So maybe Alonso, hopefully, is a little bit wiser than his predecessors, realises Sanchez ain't that guy. He should be a last resort, and he should just hoof it long. So yeah, again, keeper, I think I'd be very surprised if we sign a keeper. So yeah, that's just my quick take on all things going on with Chelsea. I'd like to do this a bit more regularly, hopefully some weekly updates. It's a busy time of year, there's a lot going on. At the same time, I've got a 1-year-old son and my daughter, well, he's 13 months now. My daughter is due within the next 3 weeks, so it's going to be a busy time. But, you know, I love talking about football, love talking about Chelsea, and hopefully I get to do this more. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Be nice, it's my first one. But anyway, I appreciate you watching.